Hi, this is Jatin Dhiman. Welcome to Index Theory's post-market report. Financials are leading the advance. Can you ignore it? Let's begin. Nifty 50 closed at 25,290, up 130 points or 0.53%, while Bank Nifty led the move at 59,200, gaining 400 points or 0.68%. Sensex also ended higher at 82,307, up 398 points or 0.49%. The risk environment looked calmer with VIX at 13, down 3%, and market breadth stayed positive with 79 advances versus 21 declines. Sector rotation stayed clearly positive, with PSU banks leading at 34% and pharma next at plus 1.59%. Metal, energy, and FMCG were also up around 1% each, while auto, AT, and infra added smaller gains. The note highlights money moving into defensive and value plays, even as high beta Realty saw profit booking and slipped 0.74%, becoming the main drag for the session. Nifty 100 had clear stock-specific action, with Duredi leading the gainers at 1,018, up 5%, followed by BEL at 417, up 4%. Jindal, Jesu Energy, and Rick Leody were also higher, each up about 3%. On the downside, Hinzink and Loda were the weakest, both down 4%, while Eternal fell 3% and Enrin and Sbelief slipped 2%. Hinzink led the drag, while the Reddy surged despite an earnings dip, pointing to sector-specific buying interest. Three factors drove the market today: sector drag, stock-specific weight, and the macro environment. Realty was the biggest drag on the index at 0.74%, offsetting the support coming from financials. On the stock side, Hinzink fell 4% and acted as the key anchor on the broader market's downside. Meanwhile, VIX eased to 13, down 3%, keeping moves controlled and supporting a stable setup for long positions. Dr. Reddy's saw a divergence. Q3 profit was down about 14% YOY, yet the stock moved up around 5%. Traders looked past the weaker PAT print, focusing on broader pharma strength and stock-specific positioning. Tata Communications, on the other hand, was a classic beat but sell setup. Q3 profit rose about 55% VE, but the stock faced a sharp sell-off, reflecting elevated valuation sensitivity in tech.telecom pockets. HPCL reported Q3 profit up 35% year-on-year, with gross refining margins improving to around 8.85 per barrel, supporting the wider energy complex. Adani Energy Solutions closed about 3% higher as results-driven buying lifted sentiment across Adani Group counters. In pharma, Zydus Life Sciences announced a product launch of nivolumab, and the India biosimilar launch improved growth visibility in the oncology segment. Nifty 50 is at 25,290 and has closed above the pivot near 25,126, keeping the setup constructive. RSI at 66 points to strong momentum, while MACD remains bearish but is stabilizing. Supertrend is bullish at 24,182. Key levels to track are R1 at 25,332 and R2 at 25,507 on the upside, with S1 at 24,951 and S2 at 24,744 below. Bank Nifty is trading at 59,200, up 0.68%, reflecting strong relative strength. If momentum continues, watch for a possible test of R2 near 60,010, which is marked as a psychological barrier, with R1 placed at 59,405. RSI at 69 signals very strong conditions and is nearing overbought territory, while MACD is noted as bearish momentum. Key levels include a pivot at 58,142, support at 58,236, and S2 at 57,673. For Nifty, the pivot check is 25,026. If it holds above, the target R1 is 25,332, and if it slips below, watch S1 at 24,951. For Bank Nifty, the pivot check is 58,842. Holding above points to target R1 at 59,405, while slipping below puts focus on S1 at 58,236. Bullish validation comes from market breadth with advances at least 60 and the realty sector turning green. Trend is bullish to sideways up, with VIX at 13 indicating a risk-stable environment in the low stable zone. Key Sensex levels to track are pivot 81,813, resistance R1 at 82,502, and support S1 at 81,220. With VIX easing and financials leading, the setup favors buying on dips as long as pivot levels hold. Caution remains only if Realty weakness expands. Like, subscribe, and share your view in the comments. Hit the bell for updates. Comment below. With financials leading and Realty dragging, do you still favor buying on dips as long as the pivots hold?